So, who from the community board is with us tonight? Is it Dante or Khalid?
It's Dante.
Hi, Dante. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Fine. Thank you for asking. So Dante, we're going to take till just 10 after, and then we're going to ask Miss Alice to start, okay?
Perfect.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Hello, phone number ending in 9681. Could you just unmute yourself and tell us for the record who you are so I can change your name? Unmute should be *6 since you're on the phone. Phone number ending in 9681. Please unmute yourself so I can rename you for the record. For a final time, 9681. Please unmute yourself. Okay, let it be known for the record. I called 3 times for 9681 to unmute to identify themselves. And Beverly, as people continue to come in, I will pull them into the meeting, so you don't have to worry about that.
Okay, thank you, Dante.
No problem.
So, good evening, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started because we're going to be discussing cease and desist, as you know, but we also have asked Ms. Nicholson to give us a presentation. It's going to be approximately a half an hour, and we want to hear all the pearls that she wants to share with us. So, Ms. Nicholson.
Hi.
Hi.
So I just want to get permission to tell you a little bit about myself. I fight in court for homeowners who fell behind on their mortgages, just to get them back on track. So that avoids eviction of families, both tenants and owners, and displacement of children from their schools. And ultimately, the community wins. So I'm here today. I'm going to tell you that's really what I do, foreclosure prevention. So what I've been doing to keep roofs over heads. So I've been a lawyer for about 35 years, and a good referral for me is anyone who came to me in trouble with their mortgage. I say home is where the heart is. So many families need all of our help to keep a roof over their heads. You know, housing is short, especially during these pandemic times. It's sad but true. that families need us to stay in their homes. So thank you for joining me today. And thank you, Ms. Beverly Newsome, for giving me this opportunity to speak to the Housing Committee members of Community Board 9. So before I share with you how I try to save homes, that's where the family's heart beats, would you let me tell you a little bit about how I became a foreclosure prevention lawyer? Do I have your permission?
Permission granted.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, in the late 1970s, I rode the 2345 DQ trains, we familiar with, up to Hunter College in Manhattan, worked full-time, and then I got my bachelor's degree in political science in 1981. I then went into New York University School of Law in the mid-80s. I graduated. My passion in law school and in my legal career is taking care of my community. I've worked in law firms, state court system, legal services, Bed-Stuy Legal, Queens Legal, and when I was there, I did Social Security disability, getting food and shelter money for men, women, and children who were disabled, too disabled to work or go to school. I went into private practice in about 2008. And one day, a man came into my office dangling a notice of foreclosure sale. The auction was to take place within 1 or 2 days. He was a New York City cab driver. He had a wife and 6 young children. It was too late for me to help them. Just around that time, I was praying and meditating when an inner voice said to me, "You have to go and help people save their homes." I said I thought at the moment I didn't know what to do. It wasn't an area I had spent a lot of time in. But then the voice said, "You know what to do." At that time, it was the era of the foreclosure crisis. And I started doing modifications, and immediately I was sure of my mission in law. I've been devoted to keeping memories, teddy bears, bicycles at home for the last 12 years or so. My clients are hard workers, just like all of us. Teachers, nurses, doctors, healthcare workers, food service people, taxi, truck, train, bus drivers, civil servants, janitors, court employees. They work in banks, insurance companies. Some of my clients run their own businesses. In short, I help relieve financial stress of business owners to essential workers. Now, we've heard a lot about people are deadbeats, but that's not really true. There are many reasons why people experience financial hardship: illness, disability, death or ill health of a loved one, divorce, loss of employment, loss of income from rent, natural disaster, pandemic, an increase in housing costs. As you know, life ebbs and flows. Enjoying life one day and suddenly it changes. Sometimes it just unravels. I try to bring peace to my clients. So if you write the word peace, what I do is, at first P, I talk to them about their personal story. What happened? What's your current situation, including income? The next thing I do is examine the household expenses and the mortgage statements. Then I analyze, that's A, or fashion an option that may be available. Sometimes it's wait. Sometimes it's because a new job may be on the horizon. Other times it may be to use resources, 401k, family savings to pay it up. It may be to apply for a modification. It may be filing bankruptcy to restructure the debt. There are many options which we'll discuss today. C is for court. I ask if there are court documents. Then I take on the court, which slows down the process, or I may have challenges to the lender's complaint. Then we go for E. So we've done P for personal, E examine, A analyze, C court, E we have an exit strategy. We want to plan a roadmap to exit this situation. Now I'll speak a little bit about foreclosure and what it is. It's a legal process where the bank takes steps to recover the amount owed or to take the home or apartment and sell it at auction on what we call the courthouse steps, which is now a big room in the court. It sells to the highest bidder. In New York, a lender has to go through the court. A co-op, when you own a co-op, they don't really have to, unless there are defects in the sale, they can just sell your house on the courthouse steps without going to court. You have shares, not title to the building. Foreclosure affects owners and renters because the renter may be evicted after the auction. There are some protections for tenants in New York. They're entitled to a notice of the foreclosure case. Also, from 2009, there's the Protecting Tenants Foreclosure Act, which gives tenants the right to receive written notice before eviction and stay in the home as long as the lease is in existence. So it's a good idea for foreclosure owners to give their tenants a lease. In our community, we rent to family, friends, and we want to protect a roof over the tenants' heads also. So the lender begins the process by serving summons and complaint on the homeowner and anybody, they call them Jane Doe, other people who may live there. The best advice I can give is to answer the summons and complaint. Generally, it's 20 days. Otherwise, a lot of rights may be waived and the lender can proceed to court quickly. The New York legislature has also asked the court to send a notice to the homeowner to come to court to do a settlement. Now, in that process, the court monitors when you send out the documents, when the lender replies, if they need more. So it's easier than sitting at home trying to do it yourself. Also, there's a program in the bankruptcy court that's very efficient, and anytime a homeowner files bankruptcy, it stops the process in the Supreme Court. So if it doesn't work out there, you still have the other option of going back, challenging the foreclosure case, or trying to get a modification there. And that happens a lot. So recently also, let's talk about the moratorium on foreclosure, which ended January 15. And just to explain what a moratorium does, during a widespread economic distress like COVID, the governments, local and federal, ask lenders to cease foreclosure activity. Now, since January 15, the process has restarted. So the federal government funded a homeowner assistance fund, which I understand in New York, they either ran out of money or they stopped taking applications, but they processing the applications that they have on file. In the meantime, they've asked lenders to cease the process while they're going through the foreclosure process while they're going through the applications. As I mentioned before, there are many options available to avoid foreclosure. You can reinstate the loan if there's money. For example, I was just in court with a family and they didn't realize that they could take their 401k. He worked for Transit and had a very nice retirement package. He lived in Bed-Stuy where they live in Bed-Stuy where the property values are very high. And he could take $300,000 from his 401k. The mortgage is reinstated and they're happy in their home. A lot of people don't know you can do that. You can also modify the loan. And you have to know what to put on the application. A lot of homeowners, what they do is they hear that they have to show a hardship. So they decrease the income and inflate the expenses. Well, the lenders look at page 2 and they see right away that your expenses are higher than your income or very close. So they don't even have to look at anything else. They just deny right away. So people get denials and they don't understand why. So we helping them have to know all those little nuances. Also in bankruptcy court, you can file and you can get the help of an attorney, or this is really easy. If there's enough income in the household, you can start paying the mortgage right the next month after you filed, and then pay the arrears over 60 months or 5 years. That's very good. And a lot of people don't know they could do that, because once you show the bankruptcy court that you have enough income to pay that and to pay your mortgage every month, it's in the bankruptcy laws, so they must allow it. You can file Chapter 7 also in bankruptcy and still enter the loss mitigation program, because you may have enough money to pay the mortgage, but not enough money to pay all the credit cards and everything you owe. So you may want to discharge those unsecured debt and get a modification in court. Now, there's also a reverse mortgage for people who are 62 and over. Now, if both spouses aren't 62 or over, if one's younger, they may have to give title to the other one if they want to do that. And I have clients who don't. So, but we'll discuss reverse mortgages later. Now, they also short sales and deeds in lieu. I do not really like those programs because to me, they're giving up too early. And I've seen where they're miracles at the end of a long time. In fact, I have clients who have foreclosures pending since 06, 07, 08, 09, because the interest rates went a little lower. This past couple of years, we've been able to modify those loans. Also, I have a client who wasn't working for the past 6 years. And all of a sudden he got a job paying $180,000 a year. So he can pay his mortgage now. So I think it's premature to run with a short sale or a deed in lieu. Now, we're gonna discuss scammers. You have to be watching out, and you know, when people talk to you about scammers. Forged deeds and fraudulent title transfers are happening in our neighborhoods more often than we know. There are many who go and examine court filings and show up at homeowners' doors. They look like honest people, men and women who we trust to come into our house, who convince us that they know the judge, they know the lender, and they can help. I had someone in my office yesterday who swears he didn't sign a deed that is now filed on ACRIS. Now, it has a notary. When you go to the district attorney or the AG's office, they don't understand how that notary authorized, acknowledge your signature. So those are very difficult to reverse, even though we hear a lot of talk about deed theft. We have a hard time reversing them when we send them to the district attorney. The scammers are very tight. They do notaries and all that. So the best advice is do not sign any papers, because anything you sign, they can lift the signature out and put it on a deed or mortgage, because the register doesn't have originals. They give the originals back. So all they have is copies, so you can never figure out what's going on. My advice is to get help from people you trust. Their housing counselors, their attorneys. Do research. Not every housing, every person who says they're a housing counselor or say 1-800 foreclosure help is really helpful. Not every attorney, it's their forte. So we have to be very careful who we seek to get help from. Now, reverse mortgages. I said I'll discuss that a little later. So it's a type of mortgage loan that is generally available, like I said, to homeowners who are 62 years or older, and they permit the owner to convert some of the equity into a loan so they can cash out. I call this loan a back against the wall loan. If you have no means of doing anything else, because it depletes your equity very quickly. Plus, your heirs are supposed to pay off the loan or lose the home at your death or when you move out to a nursing facility. That balance becomes due. So a lot of people, we have to find out if, some people's kids are successful and they don't care about leaving an inheritance. And some people have no other alternative. So it's a good product if there's no other alternative. So no payment is due. But like I say, you have to really inquire if it's the right loan for you. Can you sell and buy something else, which you'd leave again to family? Are they children? Do they want to inherit? Those are things to inquire. In New York, there are two types of reverse mortgage loans available to borrowers. One is the Federal Housing Authority program, and they have a cap. Usually it's something like 50 to 60% of the value of the home. And there's another one that New York allows that doesn't have a cap. So it's a jumbo reverse mortgage. Now, that, ladies and gentlemen, are the ways I use to keep big and little hearts in their homes. I do not want to take up too much time because I hope this is useful information, but I don't want to go on and on. If you have any questions, you can call me. I'll write my phone number in the chat. I am, of course, an attorney who charges, but I do pro bono work. So I will not charge for a consultation from this group. I appreciate you listening to me. And remember, anyone can fall on their financial luck. They need our help to pick them up and get them back on track. I left a few minutes in case you have any area that you may be interested in asking about, as long as I have the answer, or I'll find it for you and send it to you. I appreciate your time and the attention you gave me here today. Thanks.
Thank you so
Ms.
much.
Adams.
Thank you, but I don't see the chat.
Yeah, if you could verbally say your information.
Okay, it's the best way to reach me is 347-526-6068. I'm generally available from 1 until 8 p.m. I'm usually in court in the morning, so I try not to stop and answer questions, but I take time to, because community saving is my passion, and I would appreciate if anyone called me. I would really stop to answer questions if anyone calls me about saving a home.
Could you repeat your number again, please, Ms. Adams?
347-526-6068. I have another number that's my office number, which is 800-323-3034. I do have an answering service, and they take really great messages, and I will call back if I don't answer personally.
Thank you.
I don't see the chat. Hello?
The chat is not on for the housing meeting. We use a different platform now. Do you have a question?
Yes. My question is, first I want to thank Ms. Nicholson. When she talked about bankruptcy court, if you can't hardly pay your mortgage, the bankruptcy court, you know you can't go there for free. So that means you have to hire a bankruptcy attorney. So there's still money leaving that person, you know, to file and so forth, that they really probably would need to stay in their homes. And the next question, it's not even a question, it's a statement. Here in Central Brooklyn, we have a terrible situation where the judges, the marshals, and the attorneys are all working in cahoots and throwing people out of their homes, even though they have rights to it, you know, paperwork showing that they have ownership. And I want to know what legislative action can be done to stop this. This is getting really out of hand.
Okay, the first question about money is a very good one. The second statement is a great observation. So let me deal with the money. And I answer attorneys who aren't interested in this area all the time. They're like, where do people get money from? Like I said, a lot of people in foreclosure are working. With the mortgage crisis that we were targeted for subprime loans at 9% or adjusted in some way to higher interest, there came a time when the money we were making, even as a nurse, couldn't pay that mortgage. But we are working with transit, nursing. As we can see from the pandemic, we are essential workers making an income. It may not be an income to pay $3,500 rent a month, but it is an income. And we do have family members who are working. So we can use family members' income to contribute. So the first thing is that most people have something between $500 and $1 million mortgage. At 2% interest, which is, well, 3%, let's do 3. 30-year mortgage on $1 million is approximately $3,000. I could do the math for principal and interest plus taxes and insurance. So we're looking at $4,000 to $5,000. A lot of families have that in their home if they have 3 people working or a tenant. So we going to bankruptcy court for Chapter 13, we only take the people who we can show could pay, because we make a calculation as to how much the mortgage will be. That's why I say we examine the statements, we know the numbers, We know what the banks, we know the modification programs. FHA, Fannie Mae have guidelines. So we actually study all that. So before we take somebody into bankruptcy, we know pretty much what they could afford. And they are able to pay attorney's fees, which are set in bankruptcy courts. And it's generally anything from $2,500 to $4,500 one-time fee. And some of these bankruptcies last for 5 years. You can't be charging hourly rates. The second one is a little more, does that answer your first question?
Yes, okay.
So
yes,
there's money. We working families, we work really hard. And I mentioned the overstuffed trains to indicate that we are people who leave home 5 in the morning and come back midnight. We working, you know? The other one is a little more difficult in terms of the marshal and the attorneys. The lawyers say they're following the law. And we have always argued that foreclosure is a court of equity and they have to look at everything and balance it. We've gotten some judges to listen, and at times the politics is so intense. The financial industry is involved, the law firms that make money from this, they're involved, and the judges are more lenient with the banking industry than with us. You know, the message out there is that if you fall into foreclosure, you're a deadbeat. And we always have to educate the judges that these are people who worked hard, who still work hard, and fell upon hard times. And that's why the legislature asked you to help. But people are sometimes more interested in their salaries than serving the communities who voted for them, I'll be honest.
But you know,
So Ms. Alice,
excuse me, then I'll listen to someone else. I just want to know, how can we organize? Because this is nothing to play with. People are losing their property, and they found out there are certain judges, there are certain lawyers, and the marshals, and even some of the precincts. The marshals coming with paperwork, throwing people out of their homes, the furniture out on the street, even though the people have legal documents to show they have ownership of that property. So moving forward, what can we do collectively to stop? When I say stop it, somebody got to start going to jail. These people who are stealing people's property, they should be going to jail and be fined heavily to stop this practice. That's all.
We discuss it with the electeds all the time. You know, the more you make complaints in your electeds' offices, I think they're aware. The Attorney General is aware. I don't know what she's doing. But the other thing is that these homes are being sold, you know, $1 million homes are being sold for $300,000, and they're giving us $10,000 and saying, and even when we find that I went before one judge and the guys had paid my client $25,000. It wasn't in cash. They claimed they pay water, you know, things. And the judge asked him for the $25,000. He's like, well, I can't help you. You don't have that. So, you know, they know the loopholes. We have to find ways. And it's hard to deal with that issue when there are all kinds of issues involved, you know, where the money is coming from, who's doing it. You know, you get into race stuff, anti-this stuff. You understand what I mean?
So Miss Alice, let me ask you something. What you're talking about is city level, state level, and what would ideal legislation look like to you?
We actually have a Home Equity Theft Prevention Act that doesn't really have teeth in discussing. They have a law in the books where you have to turn over the house within 2 years, you can file a notice. But even after you file the notice, the purchaser says, ha, we don't have to do anything. They don't really pay attention to it. And then you have to send back the money that they said they paid. So the guy who came to me yesterday, the deed says that they paid $30,000. He doesn't have $30,000. So we've talked to them about removing that return of the money part. And if we have any suggestions, we can talk to some of the electeds have shown real interest on how to tighten up that Home Equity Theft Prevention Act, because like I say, some of these properties are worth money, and all of a sudden people are seeing that they gave their deed up for $10,000, $30,000. And I think the investors know what the loopholes are. So we're trying to address
find out the loopholes and tighten it up. We got to do something. Words have power. We can't, if our ancestors survived going get off that slave ship, oh, no. We got to stop this. This is getting out of hand. So if anybody know any good ideas, please, let's put our heads together.
So Miss Alice, what were you going to say?
I think I've done pretty much research.
Thank you.
Okay. So does anybody else have any questions?
Yes, good evening, everyone. This is Diane Shepard. My question, Ms. Nicholson, and thank you very much for your presentation. Wonderful presentation, very impactful with some wonderful information. But what I wanted to ask is, how does a person's credit score, how does that affect the foreclosure? And I heard you say a little earlier that the Homeowners Assistance Fund in New York, they ran out of money. So how does the credit score of an individual homeowner, how does that affect the process of foreclosure and preventing foreclosure?
So in getting modifications, the banks realize that your credit has taken a hit. So they don't really look at credit score for doing modifications in the court process. Now, some people, when I say bankruptcy, they're like, oh, my credit. I'm like, your credit's already gone. And if you will get resolution to keep, this is not only a family now issue. We talking about, I listened to somebody said one day, that when you make a decision today, when he makes a decision today, he makes it for his grandfather now passed and the grandchild not yet born. So when we try to save the little resources, it's only since the 60s we could buy property, right? With the Civil Rights Act and all that. So we are coming in late. And if you notice the mortgage crisis, it took place just about 30 years after we were able to buy homes. So a lot of people who were just about to pay off their homes, Washington Mutual and Chase went to them and said, listen, you need to do upgrades. And they gave loans and now those homes are taken. So that's generational wealth that was taken. So we constantly have to, and then people say they underwater. I'm like, try, if you have to rent, do something for your grandchildren. Now, I might have gone far from the question asked, but basically, I hope you got the point. Or you can ask me.
Shepard?
Yes.
Or you can ask you a question?
So basically when it comes
the credit, let me get back to the credit.
Yeah.
So a lot of people come and they're concerned about the credit. I say, my answer to that, and when clients come and they say, well, my credit take a hit. They don't consider the credit in doing all these things. But some people are concerned that their credit will take a hit if they file bankruptcy. I'm like, how much is your credit score now? They're like, well, it's 700. It's because they were in foreclosure so long that the credit bureau did not report. And I said, okay, let me print that 700 for you and take a feel, just go emotional feel as to how it will feel with that credit report under a pillow or a bed or whatever in the shelter. And then see how with your no credit, you'll feel in your lovely room where you're cooking food and you're making pies and you doing fried chicken and mac and cheese for your family. Like, do this.
So you're asking them to prioritize.
Yeah, and they get a grip. Like, oh yeah, let's file right away. So, you know, credit scores. And the other thing is, what do you need credit for? They will give you a car if you file bankruptcy and you have the money. Car companies give you a car because they have a secured interest. They can come and take back the car. Credit cards, people don't need. We don't need credit cards because they take away a lot of our resources. It's like 25% interest. It may say 23, but by the time you paid late or you pay the yearly fee, you up to 25. That's like every dollar you make, you paying 25 cents to a credit, to the 1%, really.
Well, isn't foreclosure, does that appear? Doesn't that appear on a credit report, or can you get it like removed or something?
Yes, it does appear, but after a while it goes off if there's no activity. So a lot of people who are in foreclosure for a long time may find that they have a high credit score.
Okay, all right, thank you.
And like I say, I have foreclosures pending still from the crisis because I do challenge the foreclosure cases, and the banks are the bank and their attorneys are very sloppy. After all, they like mills. They're not like your big Wall Street firms. They like smaller outfits. They have a lot of change of attorneys. They use a lot of forms. The servicers themselves, which we call mortgage companies, are very sloppy with sending out some of the pre-foreclosure notices, so we can challenge those. The courts are constantly telling them how to do it because they claim they overwhelmed with foreclosures. I told one court employee the other day who was complaining that they had so many court foreclosures. I'm like, and how did you get paid these last 10 years? Because the courts got a lot of money to handle the situation, and everybody else is doing well. Courts, plaintiffs' attorneys, court personnel, judges, and homeowners are leaving, holding the bag, so.
How long does a foreclosure stay on your credit record for a home foreclosure?
Well, basically, like I said, when somebody defaults, they start reporting. And when there's no activity for a long time, they stop reporting.
Okay, got it.
Got it.
So Ms. Shepherd, that answered your question?
Yes, that answered the question. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Ms. Shepherd. Ms. Janice, you had your hand up?
Hi, good evening, good evening, good evening. What an excellent session. Thank you so much, Attorney Nicholson.
I'm glad
thank you so much, committee members. I just wish that there were 1,000 participants here because the information you're giving is worth more than its weight in gold. 2 concerns. One is, what is the importance of New York City homeowners making sure that they do the property, property deed fraud alerts through the Department of Finance? What do you think about that? That's question 1. And question 2, what is the difference between the reverse mortgage and a home equity loan? And I will come off so that you can answer. I appreciate your help. Chairperson of the Committee for Housing, thank you for having this wonderful speaker. And again, I wish there were 1,000 participants here.
Me too. You're quite welcome.
So as far as the deed fraud and what we've seen so far is every transaction, the city takes $100 to inform the homeowner that their deed has been transferred. I have not seen a great impact as far as, benefit to the homeowner. I think the city makes $100 on each transaction, and there's no follow through as to the district attorney's office or the AG's office, because like I say, there's usually a notary, whether the notary appeared at the person's house or not, who's well-oiled, who will say that the person brought a driver's license or something and signed in front of them. So that I don't think is too beneficial to the homeowner. And you have to, like, I had one guy in front of me yesterday, and I have to say, don't tell me what you will, don't give me a secret like, oh, well, I did sign some papers. I'm like, you go before a judge and you say, I did sign some papers. Well, what the heck were they? They were a deed. But it wasn't a deed. How do you know if you can't even tell me what the papers were? So like I say, it's very difficult for the older person, the unsophisticated person, to know what they signed. They would have gone to an office in Queens, which is where this guy went. They would have gone somewhere, and for what purpose? So, once you start examining the homeowner who gave, so those are the loopholes that these investors know, that they could show that these people intended to give up their title. So I don't know how to fix that, except to inform homeowners, do not sign a piece of paper. Don't do it. And the second one you asked is about reverse mortgage and home equity line of credit. With the home equity line of credit, you have to pay that back. It usually comes at high interest. It's like a credit card. So if you fall, for instance, on a $90,000 loan at 10% interest or above, which is what they charge on these, what they call HELOCs, you'll be paying $900 or about a month, unless they do some kind of interest only where the balance hardly goes down. And a lot of times that stresses out the income of the owner, because they took it because they don't have money in the first place. But sometimes you have to do repairs, and as long as you figure out how you paying it back, when you paying it back, where the money's coming from, it's okay. People do it for a lot of reasons. I find that people do it for improvements on their home. You can't though have these people who say they're gonna fix your kitchen or bathroom, and they hooked up with a lending company that overcharges you. The work is sloppy, so you have to know what you're doing with that. In terms of the reverse mortgage, you don't have to pay unless you go to a home or you die. If it's a couple, the last person who dies. So that's why I say at that point, you have to pay back all the money. And it's compound interest. It builds up fast, So unless you have somebody who won the lottery or has another way of paying out what the lender lent you, it's not a great product to resort to unless your back is against the wall. But sometimes you just have to do it. I mean, for instance, I have a friend whose husband died and their mortgage is $1,500, and she's just getting $900 Social Security. She does some catering, but it's not promised, and she has some equity. I don't see how she has a choice but to do a reverse mortgage. So, I have one example right here who's a very close friend who doesn't have an alternative. So there you go. Hopefully I answered your questions.
Yes, thank you so much. Come back again now.
Oh, I'd love to, once I'm invited. Thank you so much for listening and being so attentive.
You're welcome.
Beverly, you're muted.
How we have some shareholders in the room and on the committee as well. So how can what you do help them? Because they're homeowners, but in a different way.
You mean co-op owners?
Yeah, co-op, condo.
Well, condo is like a house because
right. So cooperatives then, cooperatives.
So co-ops, people.
So they find themselves behind. Yes. What are their options? Because they can be behind as well. Those life incidences hit them as well. They hit all of us really, but.
Right. So bankruptcy would be a good option to pay off your co-op. You know, if you know, like I say, you may have for instance, I have a client who's a nursing assistant, but her daughter is a nurse. So that's you know, a young nurse, 20-something, who during the foreclosure process became a nurse. So now we have income of $150,000 when we only had $50,000 before because she had some rental. So, you know, there's one way. Now, the court, they don't really go to court for foreclosure on a co-op, but you can challenge, they have to send notices. And you can get an attorney to challenge whether they send the notice properly. That's how you get into court.
Okay.
And that's how they pay attention. And one of the other things in Brooklyn, some of these people have contacts. They know which buildings are lovely. They sell it on the courthouse steps to people who want to live in the building, their kids, their family members, their friends. So co-ops have a lot of different things. My sister, who's an attorney too, she does a lot of like co-op prevention foreclosure. There are attorneys you can find who do that, but the best thing I would say is just like rental too. Sometimes with behind, you can go into Chapter 13, and if it's a big management company or a big building, you can actually make a deal to pay off the arrears over time. Anything 1 year to 5, you know, if you're having a hard time, but the bankruptcy laws allow you to do that too.
Okay. All right. So one time we're gonna have to ask your sister to come in for cooperatives, right?
Okay, or if that'll be good. She loves it.
So all who don't know, Miss Nicholson and her sister work together. So that's how she kind of knows a little bit of both sides. She knows her side. She's saturating her side, but her sister works on the other side. So that's kind of how she knows both parts. But thank you, Miss Nicholson. Does anybody else have any additional questions for her? And there will be a part 2 for Miss Nicholson since we have so many questions. And the next time it'll probably be a family affair, her and her sister.
That will be lovely because she does a lot in Albany. Going up next week to deal with the you know, every day the courts are cutting out our rights. So the statute of limitations, they just decided that the bank could start over and over and over and over again. So we have to fight that. So she's fighting, you know, and even when we get it done, they put on less clauses that get them through the gate. So, you know, we constantly climbing Mount Everest on that. And, you know, it's basically because homeowners, you know, foreclosure has impacted mainly Black and brown people. And, you know, we still have a fabric of disrespect and racism and all kinds of stuff in our.
Ms. Nicholson, why doesn't, and then I'll let you go, why does cease and desist, why did they pick certain zip codes, and why does it have a deadline? Seem like once that legislation goes into place, it shouldn't have a deadline. So can you explain why it has a deadline?
Which cease and desist you mean? From stopping?
The one from Kings County.
Like from stopping putting things on your on your door?
From stopping her from harassing homeowners.
Yeah.
I don't want to sell. Don't come to me repeatedly trying to push me or harass me into selling. Why does that end in 2025?
They might extend it though, because they do these things like the one I mentioned before for the renters. They did it,
Right.
and then they put a date when it expires. But a lot of those, they're just seeing how it works and if they have to amend it or put it in place permanently.
Okay, so people need to engage constantly to make sure that it doesn't end permanently.
Right.
So, Ms. Cassie,
what's going on
that
still
goes back to what you were talking about. What can we do to change this? That's one of the things. Like Ms. Alice just said, she said, that means we have to consistently engage. So that answers your question, one of your questions.
Yes,
Right,
also, we know when
I
my
just
sister
have one
comes
more
in, she'll give
question.
you.
One moment. Yes, Ms. Cassie.
Thank you. First of all, thank you all. Thank you, Ms. Nicholson. What is notice of pendency?
That's okay. That's a lien. Once you file a action concerning real property, then you file a notice of pendency. For instance, I just have a case where a client called me and said, my cousin sold the house that my mother had an interest in. So I told him, your mother, I went online and I said, your mother sold her interest or transferred her interest to her siblings in 1989. So he said, that's impossible. My mother died in 1983. So I have to start an action. I did start an action to quiet title, meaning he owns 1/3 at least of the property of the house. So I sued the mortgage company and everything else. And I'm just giving you an example. And at that time, I put a lien on lis pendens or note. It's called notice of pendency, lis pendens, which is Latin for the same thing, or it's a lien against the property so they can't transfer it without paying my client. Or so in foreclosure, every 3 years you have to renew that lis pendens, or otherwise it kind of
Would
goes
that
up.
help the homeowners in Brooklyn that are being illegally targeted or illegally thrown out of their property? Could they file a notice of pendency?
No, they would just go, as you mentioned before, the judges aren't really helpful to homeowners. So they will just move to dismiss it, because basically they have to show more. You know, like when you don't pay your mortgage, they still have to come in and show that they still have to come in to show that you, let me just answer that. When you don't pay your mortgage, they still have to put the note, the mortgage, the proof of delinquency. So putting the supporting papers will be difficult under those circumstances. So they can easily go in and get the notice of pendency removed.
Okay, thank you so much.
Any additional questions?
No, this was good.
So, Ms. Nicholson, thank you. Before you leave, is there something you absolutely additional must share with us before you go?
Well, I just say the first thing I tell my clients is pray, meditate, eat, cook, laugh. You know, don't let the stress kill them.
Because that can be a stressful situation.
It can be very stressful. And, you know, God, the universe, whatever, is always in control. So I've had clients who've been stressing for 10 years, and all of a sudden they have something affordable that they could move. You know, their situation is good. They saved money.
The sky is clear.
Yeah, you get like clear path. So always trust.
Sounds great.
Trust.
So, Ms. Nicholson, thank you. Thank you for giving us this valuable information. Thank you for having the desire to come back. Thank you.
And again,
I'm sorry?
thank you for inviting me. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh no, Ms. Nicholson, it's a pleasure. You're quite welcome. You're quite welcome. And the second invitation is open too. So you're quite welcome for doing that. Guys, as you know, on our agenda was also to discuss cease and desist. Dante.
I'm here.
Okay. We can start a dialogue on email now, right?
Yes.
Are you still looking into that for us?
Yes. So you can have a dialogue via email as a committee. My recommendation would be simply to obtain each person's email address and then create just one your own personal listserv of those individuals, and then keep everything in one thread.
So did everyone in the room hear that? And the reason I had to ask that is because we are an agency, a city agency, we could be open to FOIL. And housing is a topic, and as you can see, Ms. Nicholson was supposed to talk a half an hour, and her topic went on to the full hour. And housing is something you just can't confine to just minute, just a couple minutes. Everybody has a situation. Just the information itself can be huge. So I asked the community board, what can we do so that we can have meetings on the outside of that 1 hour inside of housing? And they were looking into that, Dante in particular. And the suggestion is that we start a thread. So we're going to start a thread in regards to cease and desist. And you know what? We can include Ms. Nicholson since she's in the room, and there are pearls that she would have that none of us would imagine. So at any point in time, she can chime in and go, well, suppose, things like that. So all of us in this room right now are going to be a part of a thread. We're going to be discussing various topics that are housing related, which extends our meeting time. But it also doesn't put any of us, well, I'm not going to be able to participate because I'll be at work. When you see the email, you answer. That's why we wanted to find a forum where everybody could participate in a time that's convenient for them and still get work done. Because in case you don't remember, we're going to be having an affordable housing virtual forum in the month of April. I think it's April. And it's supposed to be all levels of affordable housing, rent stabilization, Mitchell-Lama, co-ops, condos. All of that is supposed to be in an affordable housing forum, virtual, but we have to talk about it. We have to hash it out. We know what the general parameters are, but we need to talk about the details. So let's start doing that in an email. And that's why I was asking for permission on how that would look. And Dante was talking to the law department about that for us, so that our emails would not be foiled. Our entire inboxes would not be foiled. If they wanted to find out what's going on, it would be the thread. You understand? So does everybody understand what the goal is, what we're trying to do?
No.
Raise your hand, nod your head, say yes.
Not really. Can you explain it a little bit again?
As you know, our housing committee meetings last an hour, hour and a half, right?
Okay.
The information that you just heard from Ms. Nicholson, and then very rewarding, was an hour, right?
Yes.
Okay. But that's not all that is not the only topic that housing needs to engage in as a committee. Not only that, Ms. Nicholson talked about at least 3 very significant things in her presentation, and she just touched the surface. So our purpose in housing committee is to, 1, be a resource for the people in our community. Number 2, in order to be a resource, we have to know things. We have to learn things. And in order to do that, we have to engage in this topic more extensively. Do you agree?
Oh, most definitely.
Okay, so that's why we asked for permission. How do we set up a forum outside of our inboxes in case it's foiled, so that we can discuss these topics more extensively, become more informed, and prepare for Affordable Housing Forum, which is to occur in April or early part of May.
Okay.
Understand?
Understand.
Okay. Is
Thank
everyone
you.
else doing? You're welcome, ma'am. You're welcome.
May
Is
I
everybody
ask
else?
permission? May I ask permission to leave? I'll look for the email.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Ms.
I have
Knuckles.
another meeting. Okay.
That's okay. Thank you for coming.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thanks.
You're
everyone.
welcome.
Bye-bye.
So does everyone understand what we are setting out to do, what we're attempting to do? Thank you, Ms. Nicholson. Does everybody understand? Committee? Yes? Okay. Ms. Janice says yes. I'm assuming silence means most others understand as well. So we're going to be, thank you, Ms. Shepherd. So we're going to be starting, you're going to see that start, if not immediately tonight, it'll start tomorrow. And we're going to start, the first topic on the agenda will be discussing cease and desist. Read the legislation. Look what zip codes it's in. You see that it also has a deadline. You heard the explanation that Ms. Nicholson gave for the deadline, and it goes back to Ms. Casey's question as to what do we do? And Ms. Nicholson's response was, we need to engage as homeowners and understand when we talk about home ownership, that's cooperatives and condos as well. It's not just brick and mortars, it's all of that. So that's what we're going to talk about. Also, we're going to the Affordable Housing Forum, which our DM is going to reach out to certain resources to help us put together. That's going to be beneficial for our community as well. So those things like that, we're going to be talking about in that thread. So if you run across something that a housing topic or something that you think would fall in line with the Affordable Housing Forum, let us know. And we'll see if we can find a way to fit it in, because it's something that right now our community is under siege. And just like Ms. Nicholson was saying, Ms. Nicholson was sharing with us, understand that when a homeowner's home is foreclosed upon, especially by a developer, they go to the next homeowner. That's, especially if you're looking at two homes that the only thing that comes between them is a driveway, or if they're only separated by a wall. Now a developer has this first home. Now they're going to begin to harass the second homeowner. Even though the second homeowner has expressed no desire to sell, the second homeowner is not in financial distress, but they want that second house so that they can knock them both down to build an apartment building. So that's why I'm saying our neighborhood is under siege. So we can talk about those things, how to discuss and help homeowners, everybody who lives, homeowners, renters, cooperatives, condos. When it comes to affordable housing, we talk about those things. Okay. So now the time is 8:15. Does anybody have any questions they want to discuss prior to our leaving each other?
I want to thank you. I'm from Community Board 8, but I think we should work together because they're hitting us hard. My God, they're hitting us hard now. So can we do collaborative stuff?
We are. Are you the housing chair in Community Board 8?
No, I'm not. I'm what they call a stakeholder in the community.
Okay, I just asked because that means if you were, we can start right now. But since you're not, the stakeholder now. The stakeholder is still important. And we'll reach out to the chair of the housing committee in Community Board 8.
Great.
But thank you for suggesting that. You're quite welcome. Thank you. So you're welcome, ma'am. Do we have any additional questions or concerns before we go?
Abigail Tim has her hand
okay.
And
Ms. Tim?
Hi, good night. I did have a question. So my house has received extensive damage because an investor next door built 2 stories above the block. And I wanted to know, how is the housing committee, the Community Board 9 Housing Committee, supporting homeowners?
Okay, so will Ms. Abigail come
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I think Beverly, are you frozen? I think Beverly's frozen.
Okay, so maybe we can repeat the question to her at a later time. I know we're at a crunch to end, but how is the community board supporting homeowners who are receiving or experiencing such damage? It's been an ongoing battle with investors. It's an ongoing battle with their insurance company. The damages that I'm experiencing are about $60,000. At one point, there was a hole in my closet. I could actually put my hand through my wall into the house next door. And I had a crack from my second floor room to my basement. And they underpinned my house. I had no idea about it until I went down to the Department of Buildings, and a supervisor was able to explain the blueprint to me. I'm a realtor, so I go down to the buildings department often, but never did I think I would have to go there because of damages done to my house. So my question is, what support is the Community Board 9 Housing Committee giving homeowners?
So one, when they come to us, we have to first look into the issue. And that's where community board office comes into play as well. We partner with the information that they have and with the information that we have as well to see what we can do, because I'm sure Dante, as the district manager, he has access to certain agencies that we don't have access to. So we'll start from there. So is this a perfect place for you to be? Dante, do you have her contact information?
No, I do not have your contact information, but if you wouldn't mind emailing the board office, our email address is bk09-1@cb.nyc.gov. If you wanted to email the board office, I can definitely look to see if I can put you in contact with someone.
My hands are literally tied. I just had a baby. Can you repeat that for me?
Congratulations.
Thank you. I just put her to sleep, but repeat it for me, please, so I can write it down. The email address again?
Okay, it's BK 09 -1.
When you say dash, you mean hyphen?
Yes, hyphen, correct.
Okay.
-1@cb.nyc.gov.
Okay. So, and what would you like me to email?
Well, tell us exactly what issues you're having. It sounds like these definitely will fall within the parameters of the Department of Buildings. Do you happen to know the last time an inspector has went out to your property?
I actually called them to come out because they were on my property as recent as last month. They've been working from my driveway. I live on Winthrop Street between Bedford and Rogers. And for some reason, they didn't feel the need to, it's so crazy that they come on my property and they don't feel the need to notify me. It's almost this sense of entitlement.
Ma'am, who is the they?
The investors.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So if you have any that they use, when I asked them, what are you doing here? They told me that the investors gave them permission to come on my property. So it's almost like I have to engage people, complete strangers, contractors that I don't even know. It seemed like there's a confrontation now between the contractors and myself because the investors gave them access to my property. At one,
Miss Abigail, they can't. 7 years. Miss Abigail, they can't give them access to your property. Like you said, it's your property.
I did call the 71st precinct, and when they came here, they told me that's a housing issue, and they couldn't give them a ticket for trespassing because they were so smart that they started going on my roof to access the side to concrete the side of their this third and fourth story. So the house is on
Mr. Abigail,
2 stories. Yes.
But Miss Abigail, it's trespassing. Whether they go on your roof, whether they go in your basement, once they cross your property line, it is trespassing. if they built their building in such a way that they can't access it without your permission, then they need to acquire your permission. That's if they built it like that.
I called the police. But when I called the police, I had to call an attorney because the attorney said to me, it is trespassing. But when I called the police and the 71st precinct came here, they said that's a buildings issue. They could not give them, like they couldn't give them a ticket.
Yes, they can. So this is the thing. And Dante, I'm trying not to overjump, but this is making my head explode.
Living here.
So there needs to be, if it means you give them a notice from your lawyer, you let them know that there will be penalties the next time they cross that threshold, which is the property line that divides the two of you. And the 71st is supposed to carry it out. That's not a buildings issue. One trespassing is not a buildings issue. I see the look on your face.
I had to retain an attorney.
And what, the attorney is not going to, they're going to write the document for you?
The attorney had a contract and the contract expired early last year. But as recent as last month, they've been on, I have a Ring, like a video camera. So I'm actually watching them on my property. And when I contact them, at first they tried to deny it. And then I started sending them pictures like, listen, you can't deny it. I have pictures of you on my property. I don't need to be home to know what's going on there. And then they said, well, we had some dust on your property. We just wanted to clean it up. But I had pictures. They were working from my side. They created that dust because they were working from my side. But once again, as a single mom, I just don't want to get in that type of confrontation with anybody. You know, I just feel very disrespected. I've lived here all my life. This is a generational home. I am the second generation out of 4 generations that's lived here. My cousin sold the investor next door that house. It was a uncle and a niece that owned the 2 adjacent properties, but they relocated, they moved to Long Island and they sold that property. And it's been very difficult for me ever since my cousin sold that house.
Thank you. Hold on. Ms. Abigail, Dante.
Yeah.
Do you have a relationship with the commander of the 71st?
Yes.
So it was a redundant question. I know, Dante, but I had to ask. Okay. So is it possible that you can speak with him or her in regards to them not implementing the trespassing thing? Because it's now, you could easily interpret it as harassment because she's already addressed the issue. They're still coming on her property despite what her request has been. Is there a way that you can speak to them about that and about implementing the tickets and all that?
Yes. Again, my recommendation would be to send us an email so we have it in writing. You know, that is our receipt. So you can hold us accountable. And I will definitely get in contact with the 71st precinct to see exactly why they didn't write a ticket for trespassing. Did you file a police report? Is there any paperwork?
No, they told me it was no report to file. They said it wasn't their issue.
Understood.
But I had called my attorney because on the second floor, you could hear somebody walking on the roof. I heard them walking on the roof. And later that day, my brother came from work and we actually went up on the roof and I saw a man crouched down. So you can't see him from the street, but if you go up on the roof, you could see him. And he was handing supplies and working from my roof. They were there. And that's when I have pictures. They had scaffolding, buckets, nails, they had tools. They had all types of things on my roof that you wouldn't be able to see from the street. I actually had to get up on the roof with somebody and take pictures.
So when the little one goes to sleep, it looks like the little one is already asleep. But
I tried to put her down during this meeting. She got right back up. So she's a part of the meeting until I go and lay down with her.
So please be vigilant in writing the letter to Dante because he can't move forward until he gets the letter from you.
Okay.
Okay, Miss Janice, you have a question?
Thank you.
I just want to say, Madam Chairperson Beverly, this is one of the best committee meetings I've been on in a while. And I just want you to keep up the great work. I am a community member for over 30 years. I'm on the Economic Development Committee, but I gotta say, hats off to you, hats off to the presentation by Ms. Alice Nicholson. I am just totally floored. And again, I wish we had 1,000 people on here, and perhaps you can allow Attorney Nicholson to at least pop into the exec board meeting or something just to say howdy ho. She was fantastic. And one last question, the cease and desist, how do we get that for this community? Or is that something to be discussed in the future?
11225 is a zip code that's listed up there, but that is what the subject line of the email thread that we're going to begin. That's what the subject line is going to be.
Okay. So is that also going to be, will that also be on, I guess it's more of a Dante question. I know Dante, you're there. Will that information also be on the CD9 website so that anyone that wants to file for it, if it's something you file for, they can go to the website and get information?
So yes. Wait, Dante, for 1 second, please. What we're going to do right now with that, Ms. Janice, is we're going to leave that for the Housing Committee so far so that we can hash out the generals of it. When we get down to the details, and then, because remember, this is to move us into having an affordable housing forum and for homeowners to see how else, because remember, cease and desist is legislation. We're going to discuss how can this legislation be better. But let's let the first step start out with the Housing Committee. Then, like you said, we'll open it up to the CB9 community at large, because I'm sure, what do they say, more heads are better than few? So it would be a good thing.
I just don't want to miss the deadline, and then we're at the
no, you won't, because you're here tonight. Dante is going to make sure that I include everyone who's in the room currently. So you won't miss it, Miss Janice. Don't worry.
Just Janice. I'm here as a community member, but I'm on another committee.
Okay, no worries.
Before you guys go, my hand raised, I just wanted to make a couple of points.
I was getting ready to call you, Nicholas.
Yes. Okay, I live right across Miss Abigail, and as a matter of fact, I had the same problem. It's a community-wide problem. Whenever you see those buildings going up, you have these investors and these contractors doing that. I know the situation on Maple Street where the same group of investors, as a matter of fact, the people next to me are building a 5-story condominium. I had to spend, actually, that's one of the reasons I got so much involved within the community board, trying to fight off a building that was coming up to me. And then I have to use a couple of lawyers, spend a lot of time in the bottom of the building. This is a community-wide problem. Whenever you see, like the guy next door to me already have 5 or 6 buildings that's coming up within this community. It's a company called Quarksdale Contracting. They are based in Sunset Park and Howard Beach. So I was lucky enough to find a lawyer that specializes in that, because I've been fighting this guy for the last 2 years. I stopped them from building for at least 2 years, but now I couldn't stop them from building because as of right. But whenever you work within this community board and you see those buildings coming up, and some of them get sandwiched between old buildings, they are experiencing what Miss Abigail Tim is experiencing. I mean, I constantly call
Nicholas.
Yes.
But Nicholas, let's number one, one of the things about housing is not just homeowners, cooperatives, it's all of us. All of us who live in a particular place, they demand that we know what our rights are, because people are going to test us in that. So may I suggest, just like I said to Miss Abigail, that you make sure that they don't cross your boundaries. But too, this is what I forgot to mention. Wait, Nicholas.
I got them in check. because anytime they cross, they pay for it. So, but I have a neighbor on the other side they're taking quite advantage of because they're not aware. And I think this is something we should postpone for the next meeting to really look at. I know we don't have the time now. This is something we should go and further investigate what's going on in the community. That's what I wanted to say.
Okay, thank you, Nicholas.
Okay.
But also, Nicholas, share your pearls with the lady, with the person on the other side you feel is being taken advantage of because.
Oh, no. I'm quite active because we have the community. Okay. We have the block association, and I'm sharing what's happening with me and how to deal with these people, with the other person on the other side. And actually, the person on the they deal with the lawyers. And actually, the person on the other side are the people that have served this community. The former District 17 superintendent and principal in this district. So I'm at their house regularly to make sure these people are not taken advantage of. But I think it's a community-wide problem because anytime you see they take one of those one-family houses and they're going to put a big building, that's a problem. And then I think
have you reached out?
As a board, we should look into. That's what I want to say.
Yes. Oh no, I agree with you. That's why my first turn to was Dante because he has resources and relationships that I don't have as a housing chair. But also, may I also suggest too, Nicholas, that you reach out to Anderson at Senator Myrie's office. He's the housing specialist at Senator Myrie's office. So reach out to him in the middle. Yes. So. Perfect. And see if I know our new council member, Crystal Hudson, has an organizer, but I'm not sure that the organizer has a focus on housing in that way. I know he's an organizer, but I'm not sure he focuses on housing. But we won't know unless we ask, right?
Yeah, so that's right. Because
we asked, but I know. But I know Anderson is the housing focus in the senator's office. So he is a person who can start.
One other thing we have had, we had reached out to NHS, and the person at NHS has promised to put together some kind of a webinar or seminar for homeowners dealing with the situation, but they have not come up with it. So I'm going to also
who has done that, with Nicholas?
The neighborhood NHS.
Oh, okay. That's right. I did see a webinar on them, but it was about eviction. It wasn't about the homeownership.
They're supposed to put together a webinar dealing with if you get in construction next to your house, what are your rights, what you cannot do. I got to reach back to them to see at what point they get this thing they have put together because they have promised me they would do that. Because at our blog association meeting, we had them presenting and we discussed all that information on that. Okay, but I think this is something we should put in our agenda and follow up. And I'll reach out to Senator Myrie's office to talk to them about that. Okay?
Okay.
I'm going to quickly jump in here. Mr. Almanor, I actually reached out to NHS as well to see if they could do a webinar. I know exactly what you're talking about. I'm trying to see if they can do a second one. So if I hear back, I will keep you in the loop so we can kind of coordinate what you're also working on.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
And keep us in the loop as well, please, Dante.
Of course. Yeah, I was going to inform you once some things were solidified, but yeah, he had mentioned it, so I went on and provided the update.
No worries. Thank you, Dante.
No problem.
So if no one else has any additional questions, all of us have our marching orders. Nicholas is going to go to the senator's office. Dante is going to reach out to the agency on behalf of Miss Abigail, and we're going to see what we can do to help solve some of these problems. And this is what I mean by us as housing ambassadors, which is what we are, being empowered with information that we share with our community. Because the bigger we are, the more informed we are, the more information that extends through Community Board 9 that we're able to share. Does anyone else have any questions or concerns?
Can Nicholas share that information of his lawyer to help Abigail? Like maybe we should have like a information sheet where we could share information and help each other?
I have an attorney.
You have an attorney?
As a realtor, I thought I needed a real estate attorney, but what I found out was that I needed a construction attorney. So the first attorney that I had was a real estate attorney that I've done business with, or my office has done business with, and he really wasn't helpful. To me, at one point, it seemed like he was advocating for the investor. The little knowledge that I had about, development, I knew that the investor is supposed to pay attorney fees. And I don't know if he thought that meant that he represented the investor, but then I was introduced. There was another organization that met in East Flatbush that I attended a few times, and I got a new attorney because somebody else had a similar issue with a developer on New York Avenue. And she spoke so highly about her attorney that I asked her for the contact information, and I've been using her ever since, and it's been a great relationship. But to retain an attorney is $10,000. So, granted, they have this investment and they're building, but it's costing the neighbor a lot of money as well. Like I mentioned, the damages done to my house, it has exceeded $60,000. It's almost 60,000. It's 58 and something else. But the insurance company doesn't want to pay it. It was written into my contract that whatever damage they caused my house, they would be responsible for. But collecting that money for the damages is another issue. But I do have an attorney. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions or concerns? And Ms. Abigail, thanks for sharing your story with us. We appreciate it.
You're welcome.
So if everyone has been fulfilled and rewarded with information tonight and they don't have any questions, we're going to close off the meeting. And please look forward to seeing the email with the subject line cease and desist. That's how it will start, so you'll know and it'll stand out. And we'll talk about that. We'll talk about the affordable housing form that we're going to do in the next couple months. And if there's something that pops up that is housing related, please make sure that that thread stays housing related. If there's something aside from that that you would like to discuss that's pertinent, please create another email. Do not include it in that email, okay? If it's not housing related, but you think it's like it's zoning or something like that, please include it in another email. Like we discussed before, zoning is a byproduct of developing housing, but it is not housing. It is a byproduct of housing, okay? So everyone have a good evening. Thank you for staying. It is now 8:39, well past our bedtime. Thank you for staying. Thank you for contributing, and look forward to the email, okay?
Thank you, Beverly.
You're welcome.
Thank you,
Good evening.
Great meeting.
Good night.
Thank you.
Good night.
You as well.
Thank you.
And I'll reach out to Community Board 8.
Thank you so much. Good night.
Good night.
Everyone. Bye-bye.
All right. Good night, everyone. Be safe.